You're listening to the Monday Night Community Show with Daniel on BRFM.
This is the Daniel Monday Night Community Show on demand through YouTube. Thank you very much for choosing to listen to us through this method. If you'd like to keep up to date with when I add new interviews, then subscribe to this channel. So we're now going to be joined on the phone. We're going to be talking all about VR. Firstly, thank you very much for joining us. If you could just introduce yourself and tell our listeners a little bit about yourself, that would be really, really good.
Excellent. So my name is Mark Cundle. I'm a founder and CEO of a development company based in Ascot in Berkshire called Austella, and we develop virtual and augmented reality applications.
I was hoping you could tell our listeners a little bit more about virtual reality and perhaps let them know just how popular it currently is.
Sure. Okay. Well, so virtual reality, first and foremost, is about simulating a world and then immersing someone in that world. And that world can be imagined or it can be a real place. And virtual reality is consumed using a VR headset. A VR headsets loosely come in two categories. So there's mobile phone-based VR, and then there's the more premium end PC or gaming console VR. In terms of its popularity, it's still very much in the early adoption phase. So, it tends to be the kind of domain of the tech geek, if you like. And, we're probably 3 or 4 years away from kind of mass adoption. And what I mean by mass adoption is adorning the coffee table of the majority of houses up and down the land, or if it's not on a coffee table, it's maybe on a shopping list to get. So I think we're probably 3 to 4 years off of that point.
Yeah, I was going to say you are starting to see people, using it a bit more, and even these sort of headsets where you can put a phone in, can't you, to sort of get it at a lower budget.
That's right, yeah. I mean, for probably around £5, you can get a cardboard headset. And yes, you can use your mobile phone. I don't think a lot of people realise they've got a VR-capable device sat in their pocket. But certainly if you've had a phone, upgraded your phone within the last 2 years, you almost undoubtedly have a VR-ready device. And so, at a very small amount of money, you can then buy a headset and enjoy VR, albeit entry-level VR, but it's well worth taking that jump if you haven't already.
So is that the way it's likely to go over the next few years? But I assume obviously getting better quality.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I kind of look back to kind of 3 or 4 years ago when we kind of started with this kind of latest tranche of kind of in vogue headsets, back then, they were really clunky. The performance wasn't great. The screens they used weren't great. They were kind of basically mobile phone screens bolted onto your face. Not particularly comfortable experience. And so major advances have been taken over the last 3 or 4 years by the likes of Sony, Google, and Facebook through their acquisition of Oculus, who are really kind of driving this whole industry. And, comfort has kind of front and center of their strategy, making sure that people can wear these headsets for kind of 30, 40 minutes at a time and not feel uncomfortable, plus also enhancing the performance, which then, and we can cover this later, but sim sickness is something that's been the Achilles heel of VR for a number of years or decades even. And, so performance increases have got us to a point where we can start to almost eradicate sim sickness as an issue. And of course that will just continue. And accessibility is still a problem. Accessibility, the premium end of VR is still very expensive to get into. A PC-based headset is around about £500, and then you need a PC that's capable of running that again is going to save about £500 or £600. And so, but as with all technology, it launches at a very high price point, but it very dramatically falls over the coming 2 or 3 or the following 2 or 3 years. So, I'd anticipate, as I say, in 3 or 4 years' time, the cost of entry will be dramatically slashed compared to what it is today. And where VR is going is more towards a kind of emergence with AR, so augmented reality. It's something we're calling mixed reality or hybrid reality. What that really means is enabling real-world objects to be used in your virtual space. So if I give you an example of that, think about a headset that can track the table that's in front of you, and then that table in your virtual world is actually not a table. It's the same shape, but it's the cockpit of the Starship Enterprise. And by pressing certain areas on the coffee table, actually in your virtual world, you're pressing various controls and controlling the Starship Enterprise. And so that's the kind of thing that Google, for example, are working on. They announced a technology called World Sense a month or so back.
So, is it possible, whereas as you were saying at the moment, not only do you need an expensive headset, but that's got to be connected to a very powerful PC, is it likely eventually the headset will be all you will need and the technology will be all in that?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. In fact, you've obviously been doing your reading, because Google and HTC have just teamed up to launch their first all-in-one headset that will come out in November. I think it's going to be called the HTC Focus, but don't quote me on that. And yes, you're absolutely right. So it takes all of that processing power, puts it into the headset, and makes it completely mobile. And it'll also be the first to incorporate this World Sense technology that I just mentioned. And that's a bit of not a massive issue, but it's a bit of an issue at the moment with PC-based headsets, is you've still got this wire, and you're very aware, just the back of my mind, you're very aware that you are connected to something. And of course, the whole purpose of VR is that you fool your brain into being completely immersed in this new world. And if there's something slightly tugging at you the whole time, if you can't kind of slip into that full immersion, if you like.
And also, you'd probably need a little bit of knowledge and understanding to set up a VR setup through your PC. And obviously, you've got to know a bit about PCs to have the right one. Whereas, if it's all in a headset that you buy and it just works a bit like, I suppose, an iPhone does now, then people are more likely to use it in everyday uses. Yes,
absolutely. A couple of points on that. The PC headsets are, it's one HDMI connection, it's one USB connection, so they're not massively complex to set up. But yes, take your point, it's not quite as easy as picking a headset off your coffee table, pressing the on button, and you're ready to go.
So I think we started to touch on it, but are there sort of problems and dangers with a world where VR is, sort of extensively used?
With any new technology there comes dangers, and I think what I would say, whilst VR is still in its infancy as a technology, the people leading this are very mature technology companies, and so they put kind of health and safety at the forefront of their development. So, for example, the most obvious thing that I guess people will think about when as a danger VR is obstacles. Is you've got something that's strapped to your face that's obscuring your view, and you're moving around. What's to stop you falling, over tables, hitting walls, whatever? And so, very early on, one of the first things that was put into VR is like a guardian system where you can trace out your playable safe zone, if you like. And when you start to move to the extremities of those safe zones, you get a very jarring visual cue that you're nearing something that's going to cause you an accident. And so, as long as you don't ignore that, then you're all good. The biggest danger, I think, if I can kind of flip it around a little bit, the biggest danger, I think, in VR is that VR never quite fulfills its potential. And I think this is really down to something we mentioned earlier called sim sickness. Sim sickness is a subset of motion sickness. It's quite a debilitating thing, a bit like anyone that's ever suffered from seasickness or travel sickness. Something for the last 2 or 3 hours and make you feel really quite ill. And this has been the Achilles heel of VR for a long time. And it's taken studios like Austella, like ourselves, to spend 2 or 3 years of pure R&D, making ourselves feel sick, so that we can design experiences that then are good and don't make people feel sick. And the challenge is that we've got this kind of environment right now, which is not necessarily a bad one, where anyone in their bedroom or any small studio can create an application and publish it. For less than £100, you can become a bona fide Apple or Google registered developer and publisher, which is great. And certainly wouldn't want to stifle the innovation, some of the great games and applications that come out of those kind of hothouses of innovation. The challenge with VR is, and everyone wants to get on board with the VR hype train, if you like, but the challenge is that you kind of need to go through that 2 or 3 years of R&D to understand how to do this properly. And so, the danger is that people that are trying VR for the first time, they may well try a bad experience and be turned off the technology. And so people have got to realize that VR as a technology is very different from the content, and you can't dismiss VR because you've had a bad first experience. And so I would encourage people to look at comfort ratings that appear on all stores, look at user ratings. That are a very good way of filtering out some of the poorer quality experiences that are available.
And are businesses starting to embrace VR? I suppose like they have the internet in a big way.
Yeah, absolutely. It tends to be, because we're in the early adoption stage, it absolutely tends to be the innovators, so the leaders in their industry. Jaguar Land Rover, great example, have publicly stated that VR is helping them to sell more cars. So lots of companies, or lots of leading companies, are investing in marketing VR experiences. More and more now we're starting to see kind of training and coaching tools being developed in VR. And actually, you mentioned the internet there. The internet went through a revolution 6-7 years ago, where website design went to responsive design, as they called it, which is basically a way of saying that depending on whether you're viewing it from a smartphone, a tablet, or a PC, the website changes so that you're able to consume that content. And a lot of those innovative companies are now looking at web VR, something I would highly recommend that companies look at, web VR, all one word. And it's something that in probably 3 or 4 years' time, when many, many more of us are consuming website content through VR headsets, companies will have to adapt their digital strategies to cope with that.
I was going to say, I think we are starting to see it about. When I've come across it a couple of times. I was at an art exhibition, and you could have a go at watching it with just a pure sort of movie, and that was quite impressive. And you felt like you were in it more than I thought you would. And there's 2 local groups actually that have used it locally where our station's based. I mean, not probably full VR, but one is a church that's been renovated, and they had a potential plan of what it would look like, so people could go and see how the church would be when it was finally done. So I've sort of come across it, so I think it's starting there. So it is at that very early stages.
Sure. Yeah, and that's a great example of how VR can be used to visualize something that's not yet created.
So is there anything else you'd like to sort of talk about or cover to our listeners that we haven't yet covered?
I think probably what I'd like to say is that if people haven't yet tried VR, the best place to do so is to go buy a £3 or £4 cardboard headset. They've got a VR capable device, and most people have got a VR capable device in their pocket called their smartphone. Give it a go. Start simple. Start with maybe a 360 video, something very mild. If you like that, then move to the next stage with a simple game or a simple app, and just find out for yourself whether VR is for you. It's not for everyone, but I think you're missing out if you don't give it a shot.
So, is there anywhere our listeners can go to find out more information?
Yeah, new users to VR. I think basically the best place to go is google.com/VR. Lots of great information there about headsets available, the experiences available. If you're a company looking to do their first VR experience, want to understand how it can be used, then some great case studies, great information at our own website, which is www.austella.com.
Well, I'd like to thank you very much for taking the time out to talk to us here at BRFM Bridge Radio on the Daniel Monday Night Community Show.
Thank you very much.